You know that feeling when you're just like going round and round in circles with your partner.
Yeah, hitting those same arguments, the same frustration.
Exactly. Or maybe you meet someone new and there's this instant connection. Or maybe even an instant dislike.
Right. Something really strong you can't quite explain.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Is there more going on beneath the surface than just, our everyday interactions?
Well, that's exactly what we're getting into today. We're moving beyond the usual relationship advice.
Okay.
We're taking a deep dive into this really fascinating idea. Could our current relationships actually have roots, maybe deep roots, in past lives?
Right. Like those people who just push your buttons instantly. Or the ones you click with, like you've known them forever.
So if you've ever wondered about why you feel that way, why those connections are so intense, well, you're in the right place.
And the goal here isn't about blame, is it? It's not like, oh, it's their fault from 300 years ago.
Not at all. It's more about finding a new lens, maybe a different way to understand why things happen the way they do in our relationships, and maybe find some paths for, personal growth.
So where are we drawing these ideas from today?
We're looking at insights from a really thought-provoking discussion on YouTube. It features Hitesh Vashisht. He's a coach focused on the body-mind-energy connection.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it was on the Speaking Tree channel, and he was actually answering listener questions about past life regression and how it connects to relationships.
Got it. So our mission then for this deep dive is basically to pull out the key insights from Vashisht's perspective.
Exactly. How might these past life experiences be shaping the patterns we see now?
Patterns of attraction, conflict, all of it.
All of it. Why we're drawn to some people, why we clash with others.
Okay, let's dive in. Where does Vashisht start? He mentions something about how we often try to change others, right?
Yes, that's a core observation he makes. That our first instinct often is to try and fix our partner rather than looking inside ourselves.
Can you give an example?
Well, he mentions things like, a husband constantly nagging his wife about some habit, or a wife who feels the need to check her husband's phone.
The focus is always out there.
Right. It's about changing the other person's behavior.
And this connects to a concept you mentioned earlier,
Antarmukhi, yes. It's from soul science, basically meaning to turn inward, introversion in that sense.
So the idea is that when our partner triggers us,
it's not just about them. Vashisht says it's actually pointing to something unresolved within us. He uses this magnet analogy.
Oh, I like that. How does that work?
Well, think of it like, okay, one pole of the magnet seems to be the other person, their action.
Right.
But the other pole, the one that's actually creating the attraction or the repulsion, that's inside you.
So when you feel that push or pull,
Vashisht encourages pausing, looking inward, and asking, okay, what part of me is being activated here? What's being mirrored?
so it turns the frustration into like a clue for self-discovery.
Exactly. It becomes a path for healing yourself, which then naturally impacts the relationship.
That really reframes things. Instead of just blame, it's about inner reflection. Okay, let's shift slightly. A lot of people feel like relationships today are just harder.
Yeah, you hear that a lot, don't you? More breakups, more divorces compared to, say, our grandparents' generation.
Definitely. Does Vashisht offer any insight into why that might be?
He does. He outlines these 4 key stages or influences that shape who we are now and how we relate.
4 stages. Okay, what's the first one?
Childhood. Those really early years, maybe up to age 10 or so. He stresses how much impact things have, the love we got or didn't get, the words spoken to us, any abuse, school experiences, even how we felt about our looks and how others reacted.
It all leaves a mark.
A deep imprint. He uses this analogy of childhood being like a sponge.
Just soak in everything.
Everything. Good, bad, indifferent. And that forms our core beliefs about ourselves, about relationships. He gives this example of a girl child who felt constantly rejected, made to feel less important than the boys in the family, and how that feeling of rejection can actually create a loop later in life.
A rejection loop? What do you mean?
Well, someone who felt rejected early on might sort of unconsciously seek out situations or partners where they feel rejected again.
Wow, like recreating the initial wound.
Kind of.
Yeah.
It reinforces that feeling of I'm not wanted or I'm not good enough. It's a tough cycle.
Okay, so childhood is stage 1. What's next?
Stage 2 is the womb environment, the mother's state during pregnancy.
You mean like her stress levels?
Yeah, her emotional state.
Yeah.
Was the pregnancy wanted? Were there financial worries? What was the relationship like between the
How
parents?
does that affect the baby?
He explains it as creating an energetic atmosphere.
Huh.
The developing child absorbs that atmosphere, the mother's emotions, her physical state. It's like another layer being laid down.
Fascinating. Okay, stage 3.
Ancestral influence. This is interesting. It's not just inheriting like blue eyes or a risk for heart disease. It's also inheriting philosophies of life, belief systems, passed down through DNA from parents, grandparents, even ancestors we never met.
So we inherit attitudes.
Kind of. Echoes of their beliefs, their experiences. He gives an example of a child growing up seeing constant fighting between their parents.
Okay.
That child might develop this deep-seated belief that marriage is conflict. Marriage equals strife.
And then they attract that themselves.
Unconsciously, yeah.
Yeah.
It becomes their sort of relational blueprint, their expectation.
Oh, wow. Okay, childhood, womb, ancestors. What's the 4th stage?
The 4th one is past life connections.
Ah, here we go, the core of it.
Right. Now, he's clear not every single relationship is a carryover,
Okay.
but some are. And the key thing to look for, he suggests, is the intensity.
Intensity. What does that mean exactly? Like strong feelings?
Yeah, really strong emotions, positive or negative. Connections that just trigger you deeply. They often involve unresolved stuff, unfinished business from before.
So like if you're constantly fighting with your spouse.
Vashisht suggests that could potentially stem from a past life. Maybe you were, I don't know, rival kings or political enemies.
Seriously.
That's the kind of example he gives. The unresolved energy, the conflict dynamic, it just carries over and plays out again now.
But not all past life connections are bad. Right?
No, absolutely not. He makes that distinction clear. We also bring forward supportive relationships. People who were kind, loving, helpful before.
And they show up again.
And they continue that supportive role now, often without causing major drama or issues.
So that explains maybe why you sometimes instantly dislike someone. That intense negative feeling.
He suggests that's more likely rooted in those unresolved past life conflicts, whereas that instant comfort or click you feel with someone else.
Could be a positive past connection.
Exactly. Or just natural compatibility in this life, of course. But the intensity is the clue for potential past life stuff.
Okay, this is a lot to think about. Let's talk about something else that feels very modern. Sadly, extramarital affairs.
Yes, he addresses that too. He acknowledges it seems more prevalent now, across different age groups.
And how does he connect that? Is it past lives again?
He approaches it more from a psychological angle first, linking it to unmet needs.
Unmet needs within the marriage.
Yeah. Often, when someone seeks a connection outside, it's an unconscious drive to get emotional needs met that aren't being fulfilled in the primary relationship.
Like feeling unheard or misunderstood.
Exactly. He gives that common example, feeling deeply heard, emotionally connected, truly seen by someone else.
And he says it's often not just about sex.
Frequently not. It's about that emotional resonance, that feeling of understanding that feels missing.
Okay, so where do past lives come into this picture?
He then links those unmet needs back to potential past life experiences. Things like trauma, or maybe dying feeling unheard, or experiencing a great injustice right at the end of a life.
How does that work? Your dying thoughts influencing the next life.
It's a concept found in many traditions. Vashisht mentions the Bhagavad Gita. The idea is that the state of mind, the desires you hold at the moment of death, can create a strong pull for the next life.
So if you died desperately wanting to be heard,
that intense, unfulfilled desire could propel you into future lives seeking that very thing, seeking to finally be heard and understood.
And these past life wounds, can they get triggered early on, like in childhood?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
He gives the example of someone who felt unheard in a past life, dying with that regret. That in this life, maybe they have neglectful parents.
So the childhood experience reactivates the old wound.
Precisely. It echoes that past life feeling of being ignored or abandoned.
This really connects to those patterns you see sometimes, people always needing validation or getting incredibly hurt, even when their partner is trying.
It does. And it leads to a really crucial point Vashisht makes.
Which is?
That other people might trigger our awareness of these deep needs.
Right, like a mirror.
Exactly, the mirror analogy again. But they aren't necessarily meant to fulfill those needs for us. The responsibility for healing that core wound lies with us.
So stop expecting your partner to fix your deepest childhood or past life issues.
Essentially, yes. It's about self-listening, acknowledging your own feelings, becoming your own center, not burdening the relationship with impossible expectations.
Easier said than done, but it makes sense.
It does. And he sort of links this to the broader trend we see now, this increased interest in spirituality, what some call a mass awakening.
How so?
He sees it as a collective shift. More people are starting to look inward for answers, for fulfillment, rather than just seeking external fixes or validation.
That tracks. Okay, let's talk about last wishes and unfinished business. People often say your last thoughts matter for the next life.
Yes, Vashisht touches on that. He makes a distinction, though. Material wishes, like who gets the house, your family might handle that.
Oh, okay.
But deeper desires, things related to your potential, your self-expression, those are on you to pursue in future lives.
So if you secretly always wanted to be a painter, but never did it,
That unfulfilled longing might shape your inclinations, your drive in a future life. You might be drawn to art, feel compelled to create.
so the state of mind at death is really critical.
Hugely important. He mentions practices like chanting the purpose you need to help maintain a positive, focused state as you transition.
Like the Narayana chant.
Exactly. The idea really is that life itself is a kind of preparation for a good death, a graceful transition.
Meaning,
Resolve your conflicts now. Let go of negativity now. Don't carry it all the way to the end. He uses this image of opening old storage boxes.
and clearing out the dust.
Yeah, releasing all that old stuff you don't need anymore.
And this ties into the idea of a life review.
Yes, that concept where at death you see your life flash before you. Any major unfulfilled desires or regrets can apparently create an energetic push.
Propelling you towards experiences in the next life to address them.
That's the idea, to finally work through those unresolved themes.
Okay, this is deep stuff. Let's move to some really sensitive topics. Miscarriage, problems conceiving, even wanting a child of a specific gender. How does this framework view those?
Vashisht connects these to the idea of pre-birth planning. Soul choices.
Like we choose our challenges before we're born.
Kind of. He talks about souls writing a sort of script for their upcoming life. Choosing specific challenges, often based on what needs learning from past lives.
Can you give an example?
Sure, someone who is very impatient in a past life might choose parents in this life who are impatient with them.
To learn patience firsthand.
Exactly. To experience it from the other side and hopefully integrate that lesson.
He shares a specific case study too, doesn't he, about conception issues?
Yes, a really powerful one. A woman, perfectly healthy biologically, but unable to conceive.
Okay.
Through regression, exploring past lives, she uncovered a lifetime where she died filled with overwhelming anxiety about her children's future, just consumed by fear for them. And that intense emotion at death led to a soul-level desire for this life, to experience existence without the burden and anxiety of biological children.
So her inability to conceive wasn't a punishment, but a chosen experience.
According to this perspective, yes. Chosen for soul growth based on that past life experience.
That really reframes difficult experiences, even things like breakups.
It does. The idea is that these challenges, while painful, are often part of the soul's plan for evolution. Vashisht makes the point that we tend to learn more from the hard stuff than the easy stuff.
That definitely feels true sometimes. He tells another very moving story about parents who lost a child.
Yes, incredibly poignant. Parents whose child died by suicide.
Oh, heartbreaking.
Terribly. But through exploring their own past life connections, they discovered a previous life where the parent in that life had actually abandoned their child.
Abandon them. Why?
For spiritual pursuits, supposedly. But it was framed as being more about escapism than genuine spirituality.
And so, in this life,
They experienced the profound pain of loss from the other side. Understanding this past life contract helped them process their grief and find meaning.
how so?
They went on to dedicate their lives to helping other struggling children, turning their immense pain into a force for good, fulfilling a kind of karmic rebalancing.
That's incredibly powerful. How experiences can echo across lifetimes.
Okay, let's talk about divorce and separation again. It's
Yeah.
more accepted now, but
But Vashisht warns, just changing partners without doing the inner work doesn't really solve anything.
the same patterns just show up again.
Very likely, yes. The faces change, but the core dynamic, the underlying issue you haven't addressed, tends to repeat.
He gives an A-B example, right? Husband and wife?
Yeah. Let's say A is the husband, B is the wife. If B keeps getting triggered by A's behavior, but she decides to focus inward.
On her own reaction, her own healing.
Right. Then a few things could happen. A might actually change in response to B's shift.
Or B might evolve past needing that dynamic. She learns her lesson, so she might move on, while A might repeat the pattern with someone else.
Or they might separate,
Or the universe might facilitate a separation because B's learning in that specific context is done.
So divorce isn't necessarily bad, but jumping into it without self-reflection is risky.
That's the caution. If you don't address the root cause within yourself, you'll likely just attract the same challenge in the next relationship. He sees people go through multiple divorces.
And the theme is the same each time.
Exactly. He uses that daughter-father dynamic example too. Daughter has issues with her dad, then marries someone just like him.
Oof. Been there, seen that.
Right. It really highlights the need for personal responsibility, for healing your own wounds. Nobody else can do it for you.
Makes sense. Now, what about love versus arranged marriage? And that painful situation where you have a big love, but it doesn't work out, and maybe you end up in an arranged marriage.
Yeah, a very relatable scenario for many. Vashisht connects this back to potential past life patterns of maybe not standing up for love.
Not fighting for it.
Or not feeling powerful enough to.
Yeah.
He suggests that true love isn't just passive feeling. It involves inner power, the strength to face obstacles for what your heart desires.
So if you couldn't take a stand for that love?
He encourages looking at why. What were the fears? Where did that lack of empowerment come from? Often he suggests the roots are in past, unaddressed fears.
So the lost love, even though it's painful, can be a lesson in empowerment.
Exactly. A catalyst for finding your strength, whether you end up with that specific person or not.
And the learning is mutual. Both people in that dynamic are learning something.
Absolutely. Relationships are always a two-way street for learning. And those patterns might continue across lifetimes for both souls until the lessons stick.
He uses an analogy about boats.
Yeah, not sailing in two boats, meaning whichever path you choose, love marriage, arranged marriage, commit to it fully. Don't live with one foot in the past or wondering what if.
That requires real presence. He also tells the story of Parvati and Shiva, which is amazing.
It really is. Parvati, in her past life as Sati, adored Shiva. But her mother disapproved strongly. Shiva was unconventional, you know.
Right, the ascetic look.
Exactly. But Sati was unwavering, determined to marry him, but also determined to wait until her mother consented. It shows her immense inner strength.
And she had her own spiritual journey first.
Yes, she achieved her own realization before Shiva fully accepted her. It wasn't about needing him to complete her.
That's the key takeaway, isn't it? A good relationship starts with knowing yourself.
Precisely. Self-knowledge, self-acceptance first.
Yeah.
Then, as Vashisht says, your vibe attracts your tribe.
So do the inner work, and you'll attract someone compatible.
Yeah. Marriage should enhance the happiness you already have,
Yeah.
not be expected to create it from scratch. It becomes a synergy.
Love that. Okay, one last thing. That common saying, together for 7 lifetimes, what's the deal with that?
Vashisht offers a really practical take on it.
Less mystical.
More present-focused. He basically says, look, instead of worrying about 7 lifetimes down the road,
Focus on this one.
exactly, make this lifetime with your partner the absolute best it can be. Maximize your potential together, now.
So the essence of 7 lifetimes is about fulfilling potential in the here and now.
That's how he frames it. Bring intention, bring effort, bring presence to the relationship you actually have.
That feels much more empowering, actually.
It does. So the big takeaway from all this really is that understanding these potential past life links can give us incredible insight.
Valuable perspective.
But the real work, the focus, always needs to come back to us. Inner work, self-awareness, taking responsibility for our own healing right here, right now.
So for everyone listening, maybe take a moment to reflect on your own relationships.
Yeah, think about those intense connections, those recurring arguments, maybe those unmet needs we talked about. Does any of this resonate?
It's definitely food for thought. We really encourage you to mull over these ideas.
And maybe ask yourself that final question. If relationships are mirrors,
What's your reflection showing you right now?
and crucially, what are you going to do with that awareness? What action will you take?
That's the real challenge. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into such a complex and fascinating topic.
It's been great exploring these ideas.
We hope it's given you a new lens, maybe some useful insights into the dance of your own relationships. Thanks for listening.